all together. So for umuntu oyafisa ukuya kodakamela uyakwazi ukuthi I'm prepared for 205 kilometers. Lanxa i-205 kilometers maybe uhambe nge-1 hour 30 minutes or nge-2 hours depending ngemoto. Ngithi ukubuya kodakamela.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining the African Portal. We are coming to you live and direct from our studio here in Pretoria, South Africa. I really appreciate those of you connecting to this podcast this hour. It's going to be a long hour as we have a lot that will be coming up on this program this hour. So if you are joining us, kindly share this program, share it and let it go viral. The more you share it, the more you give it opportunity to go viral. So kindly share this program as we are going to be joining one of our very own all the way from Ethiopia. We are going to Addis Ababa. You know, this is African Portal. Our focus is more on Africa. Our calling is to develop, to also talk about things that have to do with Africa. So Africa is our business, and that is why we are going beyond the border to make sure that we get Africa involved, to hear what Africa needs to say about the situation, what is happening in our continent and across the globe. And this hour, we're going to be joining us one of our very own, all the way from Ethiopia, that we are going to be talking about the business entrepreneur in Africa, especially with those that is in the blue line. That will be one of the conversations that will be gaining momentum right here, right now on the African Portal Radio TV. For those of you that will be joining us in Ethiopia or across the globe, kindly share this program. The more you share it, the more you give it opportunity to go viral. So kindly share this program, let it go viral. Let's do it together. Together we can make this podcast go far. So let's do it together. Let's join as we open the line to connect with our very own immediate personnel all the way from Ethiopia. Rose is on the line with me that we are going to be having the conversation. Join me to welcome Rose. Rose, how are you this afternoon? Okay, we can hear you.
Hello,
okay.
Everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so hello, everyone. I'm happy to have you again, Josh. And I'm happy to have a dialogue or discussion with you about some of the common issues that we have in Africa. So everyone who's watching our program now, I also encourage you to share for everyone who is really Pan-African and really happy to, hear and comment on continental issues. So welcome, and I'm happy to have you.
All right. Thank you very much, Rose. I really appreciate that. Thank you for connecting with us. That is Rose connecting with us all the way from Ethiopia. And she is going to be talking about the business entrepreneur in Africa. Also, we are going to be open up to some of the issues facing the African continent. Why are we having this kind of problem in times such as this? Why Africa divide? And all this will be gaining momentum on this podcast this hour. One of the challenges we are facing in this continent is that the unity, which is very paramount, is not there. We are not united. We are not seeing ourselves as a one continent. We are seeing ourselves change the narrative, develop to be seeing ourselves as a continent instead of seeing ourselves as a country. Those will be the conversation that we are going to be having with Rose. And at the same time, if you are Ethiopia, you are in South Africa, we'd like to hear from you as well. What is the situation like? We know that there's a lot of people facing a lot of challenges in South Africa. Many Ethiopian businesses have been affected. Many people have been affected. But we have not have any record of Ethiopian government bringing plane to take their people. We have not heard that. We have not heard anything about that. And that will be part of the conversation we are going to be having with Rose. Rose also is a media personnel based in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. So let's get to the business of the day. Remember, Ethiopia is the motherland, is where all of us, we can say, is part of the place that we can talk about when we talk about African history. This is the only country that have not been conquered. This is the only country that doesn't receive any colonization from any country of the world. It have its own government, its own language, its own time, its own date. and it's so unique. And that is why we are going to be talking about that as well on this conversation, as we are going to be having a good time together with Rose on the African Portal Radio TV International. So join me to welcome Rose into this conversation. Like I said earlier on, Ethiopia is one of the great countries of Africa where they have their own time, their own calendar, and also they have never been colonized by anyone. This is the country that they are doing their government, their own government by themselves. And also, we know that some South Africans, some people are facing challenges in South Africa, and we have not have record of Ethiopia bringing plane to take their citizens. So that will be part of the conversation we are going to be having on this program this hour. So if you are joining us, kindly share, like, comment, let it go viral. And the more you share it, the more you give it opportunity to go viral. Rose, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Let's get to the business of the day. Let's talk about entrepreneur in Africa and also in across the globe. What is different between what we are doing in Africa and the rest part of the world?
As you know, the economy or the entrepreneurship in Africa and the rest of the world, especially the developed one, is quite different. As an African, we are a little bit, worried about or concerned about how we can continue like this because, as you know, our population is growing. We have, a big population, and the continent is really huge. But as you know, the economy is not really as competent as the other continents. So, as an African and as one of the entrepreneurs in Africa, I'm really worried. When is the time that Africa is, independent economically? So, when we talk about colonization and other stories, history, the thing is, the developed countries are really doing good because they utilize the resources of Africa. But now we are no more colonized directly, at least. So we can think about, being independent and start to grow. So the economy in Africa is not really doing well as the rest of the continents. But as a strategy or as a plan or as a startup, there are things that have done so far. So it's already started, but not really doing good so far. So as to me, Africa should do something. Not really having a lot of agendas. We have a lot of agendas, as you know, and basically we all are aware of Agenda 2063, which I also aspire to see in the real time. But we have to do a lot to make the Africa we want. Agenda 2063 is about economy, about gender, about peace, about everything. So it should start to be implemented. 2063 will come tomorrow, unless we just do the plan or implement the plan piece by piece today, starting from now. There is no way that we just see the Africa we want in 2063. So as to me, this continent should be competent, and we are still not really doing good as the rest of the continent. So that's the initial idea that I come forward.
All right. I thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that introduction and the way you're coming in. You're talking about the Agenda 2063, and 2063 is a kind of, we still have a long way to go, but are we close to that? If we are looking at the continent where people are fighting, where we are still having the Afrophobia within ourselves, where we are not united, do we see this agenda coming to reality? And also, before we even look into that, because you are sitting in Ethiopia, you are in Addis Ababa, that is the capital city for for African Union. What is African Union doing regarding the issue happening in Africa currently, especially the Afrophobia in South Africa?
As you know, Ethiopia is the headquarters of African Union that is established basically by the patriots or African patriots. As you know, the continent is affected by two enemies as to me, or two potential enemies. The first ones are the external enemies, and the other ones are the internal enemies. So as an African Union headquarter, we can see a lot of summits, meetings. I was able to be a part of the 39 summit, AU summit, that the leaders were involved in, and we are, our focus area or the thematic area for this year's assembly or summit was wash. It is all about water and sanitation, and all over Africa. So when we go to the thematic areas, and the agendas and the meetings were really good, because there are a lots of promises. I was even able to attend the closing remark by the chairperson of the African Union. There was a lot of promise, a lot of good speech and stuff, and a lot of things. But the thing is, when it comes to implementation, we can see that Africa is still suffering of hygiene, pure water, and related stuff. So as to me, the African Union should do something so us we can have, the agendas implemented. So I can take you back to 2018, which was about silencing the gun. And we are still fighting. There is still civil war. There is still, guns everywhere, which are shouting in the continent. So as to me, we should start to check ourselves. The African Union should start to see itself, not really just crafting agendas and planning a lot of stuffs, but they should go back and see, do we really fulfill the plans or the agendas that we set? So there is no problem of setting agendas to me, but there is a problem of implementation. And when we go to the South African situation, as you know, the community, especially Ethiopian community in South Africa, is, their number is so high. We have a lot of people there, our brothers. As to me, they are in the part of the country, in the southern part of the country. As to me, they won't change country. It's just changing for place, because I believe we should have to think Africa as the same country, one country. I can go to South Africa, East Africa, West, Central, anywhere I go, I should be treated like a citizen of Africa. This is one of the things that we felt. We planned about one passport, African one passport, that I can go to any part of the continent and, act as a citizen of the continent. So the implementation problem makes things worse and worse. So as to me, it is not about, planning, talking on, very good words and stuff. No, nowadays, there are lots of AI tools that can even draft ideal plans. So as, wow, you can say, oh, can I do this and that? But if you don't implement those plans, honestly, Africa will suffer again and again. So the South African government should take Ethiopian government as their own citizen. Our government also should, have a conversation state ministers should have a conversation, so as everyone should work anywhere in a way that they are not affecting the country's policy. They shouldn't have to violate the policy or the constitution or any other law of the country. But Ethiopians should, live, work, and prosper in any part of the continent. So I'm not really happy with the situation in South Africa nowadays, but also I'm not really happy because the state ministers are not really taking this thing seriously, and the AU is not really doing anything officially so far. They might do something, internally, unless they, expose it, or we see the fruit. We can't say anything on that regard, but they should do something, and this should stop in any ways.
All right, thank you very much. I like that. Let's quickly look into the issue of our economy, because that is one of the challenges that we are facing currently. Our economy is not growing. The population is growing, but our economy is not growing. We are fast growing population, especially when you talk to about youth. across the globe. And the predictions say that in the next 50 years, Africa will be one of the most populous continents in the world. But are we planning for this? Do we have a room to also accommodate this? Because the issue of immigration is a very big issue in Africa. Though there's nobody that can stop uh, immigration, like migrating from one place to the other. That is not possible to stop because we all products of the migration. We all migrate from one place to the other, and that is part of the plan of the creation. But let's look at our economy. Let's look at our entrepreneur. How are we going to use what we have? The economy that we have now, the resources that we have now, all over Africa, we have a lot of resources that can develop this continent. How are we going to channel them to also give a room to the prediction of African having one of the highest population in the next 50 years? How can we do that?
Thank you, Josh. It is a very good question as to me. Yeah, the population is growing, but the economy is not really growing as the population. The thing is, the population growth is one of the capital to me, because you might have natural resources, you might have a lot of resources, but human resource is one of the key resources, especially for us who are not passing through different industrial revolutions. Nowadays, the developed ones are on the fourth industrial revolution, so as they can use AI or cobots, collaborative robots, and others to make things very efficient and to, use them as one of the tools that they can do a lot of work. But like our continent is not really, really left behind. We can't even say that we are passing the third revolution, industrial revolution. So as to me, we have to make sure that we use every citizen effectively and efficiently. And for that, the stakeholders are the leaders of the nations, state ministers or leaders of the countries are coming for summit every year. So honestly, if they do what they plan, we are talking a lot of things. We were talking about reparation justice. We're talking about a lot of agendas in each of the summits. If those agendas are implemented on the time frame that we already planned them, then the Africa we want is going to be real. The Africa we want is the one that's prosperous, the one which is not really suffering of basic needs, which is really including every citizen, so everyone will be happy. Even the diaspora communities, they are our families. They should come back and invest on their own motherland. So as to make these things real, the leaders should start to focus on implementing what they plan. Thanks to the technology of era. Nowadays, we are lucky enough to develop faster because the agriculture sector, the education, the health, everything can be supported by technology. So as it won't take us like 50 years or 60 or 70 years plus, or 73 for 84 years, like China, Dubai, and other countries to grow, because these technologies can help us to make things very fast. So as to me, it is a problem of implementation. When we come to work and when we come to access to, employment, the maximum number is the youth number. So we have a lot of youth in the continent, and those youth or the youngers be a good asset for the continent. We have to create a lot of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of in my country, Ethiopia, or in one of the parts of Africa, I can say no country. I'm not really promoting country in Africa. We are one country in one side of the eastern continent in Ethiopia. There are a lot of encouragements for startups, those who are coming up to entrepreneurship what we call it, to become entrepreneurs. They are really supported. There are a lot of competition, funding, and stuff. The government is promoting entrepreneurs, including the blue one, which is fishing or fishing, mining, and there is also marine tourism. Like we can use the what we call it the blue economy in one of the tourism growth. So if you just, give everyone, responsibility as a citizen of Africa, then there is a way that we can be developed, at least to fulfill our basic needs. So as if I'm comfortable in my, home, in my house, in my village, I shouldn't have to go to somewhere to get something. People are migrating because they can't afford their basic need. This is shameful for the leaders, honestly. For the leaders, they have to make sure that every citizen who is willing to work, I can stress on that, because if the person is lazy enough not to do what he is expected to do, then he might be, you know, he might not getting enough food or shelter or whatever the basic needs. But if the citizen is doing and working, and if the government is providing those access to job, or the jobs might not be fancy, but it depends on the type of skill and knowledge you have. So the leaders should be honestly asking themselves, why are we have a lot of problems in the country, in the continent, why people are migrating, why people are starving and other stuff. So this is something that I can say.
All right, thank you very much. Look at the implementation, as you said, is one of the problems we are facing in Africa. There is so many time we have set agenda. There's so many agenda 2030, agenda 2020. Many agenda have come and go, and there is no implementation. So talking about the implementation, because that is one of the areas that we are feeling right here in this continent, Africa. What do we need to do to be able to implement some of the agendas that design? What do we need to do to also make sure that it's not only about the agenda, it's about the implementation?
Yeah, the implementation is the key. As I told you, for startups and entrepreneurs, in my country, there is a lot of encouragement. I can assure that, because I'm one of the entrepreneurs who are doing this and that. Especially tech-based entrepreneurship is highly promoted and encouraged. Uh, so one of the implementation is, making the use, the center of the growth or the development in the country, in every part of the continent. So the youth should be capacitated. You have to have, capacity building programs or empowerment programs for the youth, so as they can take the responsibility to grow the country. Unless you use your own, citizens or your own people, then there's no way that someone can come. Okay, in my country, many Chinese are coming and building the road, the construction and stuff. But for me, I really appreciate the willingness of the people who are coming from different parts of the continent or maybe abroad. But we should be responsible to our place. I should have to build my own house. I shouldn't have to expect someone else to come and build my own house. So the leaders should use and utilize and empower the young people to involve in different parts of entrepreneurship. As I told you, the tech-based, the education, the health, agriculture. Basically, one of the biggest sector in my country is agriculture. I can say that it is the bigger sector in the entire Africa. So the agriculture sector should be developed and encouraged to become modern, so as we can produce a lot in a small area, just using the land, the resource we have efficiently, so as we can even export to the rest of the continent, like to the European, the American, and other parts of the world. So implementation starts from a single act. And basically, we have to involve the youth for any type of growth or entrepreneurship, including the blue economy, which is, as I told you, fishing, processing the seafood. It's one of the healthiest food. Of course, we have to make sure that the environment is safe. As an environment activist, I can say that the environment should be safe, the marine should be safe, the sea, the rivers, every, blue economy should be utilized safely so as we don't have to affect the biodiversity and the ecosystem.
All right, let's quickly look into that. The blue economy. There's so many people that believe that we have so much of that in Africa, but we are not utilizing it. If you look at our seas, some of the plastic is getting into the sea, and some of them is causing a lot of. What do we need to do to develop the blue economy, especially more in Africa? Do we need to go into a space whereby we need to create some part of the continent to make sure that we are producing? What do we need to do in your own view? What do you think we can do to develop the blue economy? We can't hear you. Okay, volume, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so as we all know, the first thing that we should do is creating awareness. Awareness is the first thing. What Africa has in a blue economy. We have a lot of, water resources. We can go to ocean, lake, rivers, and others. So Blue Nile, you can take it as one of the way of economic development and growth. And it is a connection between 11, 12 countries in Africa. It goes from Ethiopia all the way to different parts of the continent. So for me, whether you use it for fishing or whether you use it for processing the seafood or whether you use it for tourism, you have to know it, or you have to know to what extent that can be an income generating source for the continent. So I'm afraid if the leaders even, getting, into a deep planning and studying and research, if they know what we have, if they know the importance of the blue economy, they can do a lot. They can do a lot. There are countries like Tunisia, which they are using the lakes and what we call it, the sea around them to for the tourism industry. So they can get a lot of income. They do have many tourist attractions and tourism in the country based on those blue economies. So as to me, we have to share good experiences across the continent, and we have to also see the benefits of the blue economy in depth so as we can use it effectively. Of course, as I told you previously, the the biodiversity and the environment, the ecosystem should be very safe, very safe. Putting plastics and microplastics or whatever you name it that makes, or chemicals from industries and fabrics, and make it poisoned or to be poisoned and less useful is for me the most dangerous thing that we should stop and refrain. Everyone should think about it very well, but you have to know the extent that the blue economy is useful in the development and growth, or growth, or what we call it, the entrepreneurship of development of entrepreneurship in the country or in the continent. So the first thing is know how much it is important. The blue economy is important for the continent. So the leaders should know it. The stakeholders who are in that sector, the blue economy sector, should know it very well. And everyone who is responsible for this sector should know it very well. But the environment should be safe, because we have, a lot of ecosystem and biodiversity in the blue economy.
Wow. All right. So what we need to do is to do more campaign. We need to talk more about it. And I believe that we are going to be using this space as well. We are going to be putting you on the spotlight. We do more research about our blue economy. We do more research about how we can also let our people be aware of what we can gain, especially in the area of the tourism. Because like what is happening in South Africa now is really affecting the tourism sector of South Africa. Nobody wants to travel to South Africa because of the problem that is happening in South Africa currently, and that is not good for the economy of South Africa. And one thing we want us to understand is that don't let us put one country at the corner and say, oh, it's fine. If the South Africa economy have problem, the whole African economy is having problem. So let's have that at the back of our mind, because we always think that when South Africa economy is going down, is good for Africa. It's not good for Africa. And let us have that understanding that if tourism, business in South Africa is going down, it's affecting the continent. So we need ourselves in this continent. We don't let us think that because South Africa is having this issue of the migration, and they were having this problem with the other African countries, other African citizens in their country, they are telling them to go and all that. Because of that, the economy of South Africa needs to go down. No, that is not the best way. And also, please don't let us attack any of the business owned by South Africa in any of the part of Africa, because there is no good that is going to come out of them for us. It's just a system that is planted to destroy the economy of the Africa. So if you say now because South Africa is chasing people in South Africa, and down in Nigeria you are attacking South African businesses, maybe MTN, maybe ShopRite and all that, that is not going to help us. That is still going to destroy the economy of the continent. So let's rather work towards how we can fix some problem within ourselves. And let's also call to to AU. AU needs to do more now. AU needs to speak out now. AU shouldn't be at the isolation at this time. This is the time that we need to see more events of AU. Meeting every year, passing many agenda. That is not the solution. The solution is action. The solution is proactive. The solution is to come up and build this continent. I hear you when you say that Chinese is coming to your country to build road. That is not supposed to be. This is the continent where we should be able to use our own resources to develop ourselves. We don't need Chinese in Africa. We need ourselves. We don't need America in Africa. We need ourselves. And all this thing that is happening in Africa, all this separation, all this disunity is just a system to break the economy of the Africa, to destroy the economy of Africa. So let's Africans think out of the box. Let us think how we can be able to come together. Other people are bringing their resources to develop the country. You think that they were helping us. They are not helping us because there's a lot of heavy tariff putting on us, and that is also affecting our economy. So I think that is one of the things that we need to look into as well. But before I let you out of my way, Rose, let's quickly look into the issue of the entrepreneur, especially when it comes to the youth. Your country is doing very well. Your country is empowering youth. Your country is encouraging you to do that. But is it happening in other parts of Africa? How are we going to use entrepreneur as well to also boost our economy? How can we do that? Go ahead.
Yes, as to me, the entrepreneurship or the startups that we are promoting in Ethiopia should also be shared for the other part of the continent. I really love to hear and to encourage or to see the fruits of continental organs like AFCFTA. So this African Free Continental Trade Area, AFCFTA, is really trying their best to connect the continent businesses together. For example, if I'm doing really good in Ethiopia, if I have a startup business which is really doing good in Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Africa, Uganda or Morocco or Egypt should learn and share something from it, so as they can implement it in a way that they can use it in their context. So we have to have shared businesses, shared economy, shared organizations or shared companies which can produce for the continent. I have to buy something not from Dubai or China. I have to buy something or from Thailand. I should buy something from South Africa. Endemic knowledge, endemic product, bags, anything I can say should be bought from any part of the continent, which is produced by the continent. So we should have to promote Pan-African spirit, and we should have to learn to share what we have in the continent. That's what I want to say lastly.
All right. Before we conclude that section of the conversation, because we are still going to the last section whereby we are going to engage. We are going to engage in terms of the differences. Let's look at the issues of what is dividing us, which is the issue of immigration, the lack of work, the unemployment in South Africa, the resources, the health department is under pressure because of the other African country coming to South Africa. The educational sector is having issue because other people are coming to South Africa. They're believing that the resources is not enough to cater for everybody. And that will be the the last part of the conversation. But let's look at how do Ethiopia immigration in South Africa affected the Pan-African spirit and the inter-African relationship. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So as we know, we all are Pan-African. We love our continent. So as I told you, we are in different parts of the country, which is Africa entirely. And so this really affects Pan-African spirit. The things that are happening in South Africa now, I heard that people are forced to leave the country, to close their business and other stuff. The country might have any political tension, or they might have competition between different parties or any other stuff. That's not my business. But the thing is, we should have to make sure that whenever we do something, it shouldn't have to be it shouldn't have to be by the expense of the citizens of Africa. We want every citizen of Africa to work in any part of the continent and to get resources. They can develop their own selves, and then they are developing the country. Basically, whenever Ethiopians are working in South Africa, the growth is not for Ethiopia. They grow or develop South Africa or the country that they are working in. So we shouldn't have to have this kind of spirit that will affect Pan-Africanism and the continental relationship that we have between our fellow brothers and people who are in different parts of the continent. I don't want to call this name country anywhere, because as to me, the continent is one. We are in different parts of the continent. We should have to keep this Pan-African spirit so as anyone can work in any part of the continent. So AU, the state leaders, anyone who is responsible should advocate for the rights of every citizens of Africa to work in any part of the continent. Because I can say that there are people who are coming from different parts of the country, leave alone to the continent. There are people who are coming from Europe, America, China, anywhere. They can work in the country as far as they do have work permits, and they are not affecting the country. So we should have to, discriminate our fellow brothers so as we are not affecting the Pan-African spirit.
But one of the challenges that I think we are having is that the Africa that we are talking about, if you are talking about the Pan-Africanism, not all of us have that ideology, because most people believe that because I'm a South Africa, this is one thing I used to tell people, that we are first Africa before we become whatever we become. So when we have that at the back of our mind, that because of your skin, because of how you look, because of your nature, definitely we are first Africa. That is the bottom line. The Africa. Then whatever you become, don't let that be the yardstick that you will use to be an enemy to the other people. But if you look at it politically, you will realize that the Africa is the most target when it comes to issues, especially in Africa, when they want to cause a problem within our anywhere across Africa. We use the issue of migration and African migrants in other parts of Africa as as opportunity for the politician to be able to reach out to their people. What can we do to address this, and how can we stop this?
Since I'm running out of battery, I might not answer questions more than this. But the thing is, the politicians are responsible for the citizen. Any politician is coming to power to serve the country, to serve the citizens or people. Wherever the state you are leading, wherever the country that you are leading, you have to be responsible about your action. A government who is coming by the expenses of the other's life or by killing others can't be a good leader at all for me. We have to first take care of people, humankind. Whom are you leading after all? If you are destroying others to make your power, or chair to become real. For me, this is the most foolish way of coming to the power. So I think South Africans are not really foolish enough to know who is best for the country. We know Nelson Mandela is a symbol of peace, love, and unity. So South Africans are the children of Nelson Mandela. His spirit is across the continent. We know that there is no way that people accept such a leaders who are misusing people and conquering people for their power. So we should say stop. For me, even above all the other AU and other leaders or Ethiopian immigrant organizations or other formal state organizations, the South Africans should fight for people to live freely in their country, especially fellow brothers in the continent. So as to me, we should have to stand together as an African and fight any racism and fight between brothers.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that we are running out of the time, but looking at African Free Trade Agreement, that is one of the solutions that I think we have currently. That is what we are looking into, African Free Trade Agreement, which is one of the things that we believe is going to unite this continent economy and also grow our continent economy. But this seems to be very slow. It's not coming as expected. Do you see this going forward as a solution?
Yeah, the speed is not really good, as we all know, but it doesn't mean that latecomers are not coming. I know that it's very tough for them to implement because we want fintechs which are really accessing finance or money, symbolic money for the continent, common currency in the continent. We need maybe language barriers might be there. There are Francophones, Afrophones, and other stuffs. We want actually Africa phones or Afrophones, basically, because we should have a common language so as we can communicate in a way that Africa should have a common language. And these barriers might affect from implementing AfCFTA, but for me, there is still hope that AfCFTA make these businesses, including the blue economy, which is really connecting Africa, including the Nile River, which is really a way of unity for Africa, so as we can unite, using our blue economy, using our water resources and other resources, so as we can build one Africa, one passport, one currency, and maybe one language if it's possible. I promote one language also that most Africans can speak. So these things might affect the implementation of AfCFTA, but trust me, this will come with a very successful implementation if they are really working hard on the way they started.
All right, thank you very much, everyone joining us. That is coming from Rose all the way from Ethiopia. What we are discussing is how to build economy of Africa and also how to develop the entrepreneur. The Ethiopian government in doing so well, to empower their youth, and also we also encourage other African countries to do more to encourage and also to empower the youth. Sponsorship giving to the people is not empowerment. We can do better than that. If we are fighting because of sponsorship in this continent, that means something is wrong with us. We can do better than that. We should be focusing on having factory. We should be focusing on having big factories to do things, develop ourselves in our continent, not fighting for sponsorship. How much profit are you going to make at the end of the day from one sponsorship? How much profit? Look at the profit margin. You are looking at the sponsorship when other people are running companies, businesses, supermarkets, that they are making over thousands of rands in every month, but you are looking at sponsorship that you are going to be making maybe 200 rand, 300 rand profits in a day. Let's think out of the box. All these things, these are the minor things that is not going to take us far. It's not going to take us far. Let's look for bigger things that will take the continent far. And that is what this conversation is all about. It's all about also about our blue economy. Let's go into that as well. Let's use our tourism. Let's use some of the things that we have in Africa to develop our economy. That is the conversation that we are having right here with Rose all the way from Ethiopia, joining us to have this conversation together. And at the same time, this is part of the celebration of the Mandela Day. Mandela Day is just on the way. On the 18th of this month is Mandela Day. And that is one of the things that is gaining momentum right here on the African Portal Radio TV International. We already opened the ground with Rose to celebrate the Mandela Day in style. And Mandela says something that I want us to pay attention to. He says, it's in our hands now to make this place a better place to stay. So let's think about that. Let's make this place a better place to stay. Let the spirit of Mandela, let it guide us into the future so that we can be able to build a better continent and a better environment for every one of us to live. Rose, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time. Please keep sharing this program. Keep doing the great work you are doing in Ethiopia. I'll bring you back before the month runs out as well. We are still going to be having the conversation about the issues and what is happening in Africa. In the absence of that, I just want you to round up from your side as I'm going to step out. We have another program coming up immediately after this. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. That will be a goodbye from here. Join us exactly 5 o'clock as we are going to be opening the line for Dr. Ojo all the way from Pumalanga to be joining us on this program. Have a very good evening. God bless you. Bye for now.
Ukuthi awuhambe 2 hours, uyahamba or 4 to 5 hours kuya ngokuthi uhamba ngayiphi imoto. Ngitsho nje ngixoxela abantu ukuthi hayi umgwaqo enkayi ngwamadoda abafazi, it takes a man ukuthi drive khona ngale, ngingasikuthi ngiwedenja i-gender discrimination or inequality, but umgwaqo wamadoda, it's just a phrase ukuthi you must be prepared, but it's also an experience depending ukuthi uzonda onganani, depending ukuthi ikuyini ofuna ukubona, but it's a good experience.